Pope Francis is set to leave tomorrow for his three-day trip to Hungary. The Holy Father is set to stay in Budapest, where more than three-quarters of the population is Christian. Overall, the country is around 40% Catholic. This marks the 41st apostolic journey of his pontificate. EWTN News Vatican Correspondent Colm Flynn joins us now from Rome. Colm, great to see you. So there is a lot of interest in the Holy Father's trip to Hungary. Tell us more about that.
A very good evening, Tracy. And yes, you're right. There is going to be so much interest in this trip for many reasons, but the main one is political. Hungary, with its Prime Minister Viktor Orban, is seen as a strong conservative nation within a mainly liberal Europe. And so this has resulted in them having a very delicate and often difficult relationship with the European Union. For example, at the moment, 15 EU governments are taking legal action against Hungary because of a law there being passed, which Hungary says will help protect children against gender ideologies. The EU and other nations are saying that it's anti-LGBTQ and even an assault on human rights. So while Pope Francis and Viktor Orban might not see eye to eye on other topics, this is one they actually do agree on. The Pope has spoken out strongly a number of times against the EU's gender ideology, for example, saying back in 2016 that it goes against nature. So that is one point the Pope and the Hungarian Prime Minister both agree on. Another issue where their viewpoints may not fully align is on the issue of immigrants and refugees. The Pope, from the very beginning of his papacy in 2013, has made it one of his main priorities to highlight the plight and suffering of migrants and refugees, always encouraging countries to open their hearts and their borders to those in need. On the other hand, Prime Minister Viktor Orban has been less receptive to refugees. Back in 2018, for example, during the refugee crisis, he took a very hardline anti-immigration stance. He criticised the EU's policy on immigration, saying that it threatened the sovereignty and cultural identity of Hungary. He also said he didn't see them as Muslim refugees, but more as Muslim invaders.
But Colm, I understand Hungary has opened its doors to some refugees.
That's right, Tracy, because since the war started in Ukraine, Hungary has welcomed thousands of refugees into its country, and they've been allowed to stay, they've been given help and protection. And in fact, in 2022, Viktor Orban came here to the Vatican, where Pope Francis thanked him for opening his borders to Ukrainian refugees. And Tracy, there was this kind of awkward or funny moment where Pope Francis presented the Prime Minister with a medal of St. Martin, and he pointed out that St. Martin gave his cloak to a person in need. And then Viktor Orban was quick to respond and point out to the Pope that he didn't give his whole cloak, he only gave half of it. So many believe there is this point of conflict between the two when it comes to just how open a country should be to the amount of refugees they take in. The Pope has said many times that we have to build bridges, not walls, but he did also say that these bridges had to be built wisely. Now, Tracy, on the topic of Ukraine, this is another area where there may be some friction between the two. Pope Francis speaking out against the war, condemning Russia at every turn. Viktor Orban less vocally critical of President Putin and Russia. In fact, they criticise EU sanctions on Russia, while at the same hand, Hungary has been calling for the de-escalation of the situation. But remember, Tracy, Hungary, very much a Catholic country. They hosted the Eucharistic Congress 2 years ago, and it is believed that Pope Francis will get a warm welcome when he lands in Budapest tomorrow. Viktor Orban travelled here to Rome to pay his respects and kneel and pray before the body of Pope Benedict XVI after he passed away. So there is a strong historical relationship between the nation of Hungary and the Holy See.
Colm, almost out of time, but quickly, I know the Vatican has just released an updated version of the Holy Father's schedule. What more can you tell us about his plans?
Well, during the first day, as usual, the Pope will meet the President of the Republic and the Prime Minister. At the same time, he will address the diplomatic corps. Then in the afternoon, he will meet local clergy. On Saturday, the Holy Father will meet refugees and the poor, also young people and, as is normal on these trips, the Jesuit community. On Sunday, his last day in Budapest, Pope Francis will preside at Mass at Kossuth Lajos Square. And then in the afternoon, before returning to Rome, there will be a meeting with people from the academic and cultural world. Tracy?
Okay, Colm, thank you so much. Appreciate that report.